This is a Two Front podcast.
A week or two after we hired them, truck smashed into one of our practices and threw off the whole entire plan.
Eric is a graphic designer turned dentist.
The core classes are sculpture, figure drawing, painting, and just using materials to create something very similar to dentistry. I think it starts with my desire to create beautiful things. My wife and I, we had what was called a designed alliance. Our implementer sat down early on and he said, this is either going to wreck your marriage or you're going to have an incredible business.
You run EOS for your 6 practices with your wife.
Her and I have a natural visionary integrator relationship, even at home. I'm go, 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 and she's no, no, no. And that's a healthy balance. We had a signal. We talk business too much at home, pull your ear, like, yo, that's it. That's husband and wife time. The profit went from 3 to 5%. I think when we finally exited, we were around 18 or 19%.
It's just this like dirty secret, but if you do it, it'll change your life.
You got a crooked smile, well that don't bother me much. You double over, working double time, you double tough. I'll just shine it up until the sun hit like a glare. I gotta dare, get the fuck up out the chair.
Dr. Eric Forte is the founder of Lakeview Dental Care, a 6-practice group which he sold to the Smilist. And I'm really excited to share his story because he's got so much to share around building his own dental empire in New Jersey with his wife through an operating system that so many of our guests are running on, and now being part of a bigger organization, which I know so many of our dentists have been asking me about, like, what is the move? Is it to own your own practice? Is it to have your own little mini empire? Is it to actually join a group? What is it? So, Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Doc. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, 100%. So listen, I love to get into like the personal side of things first. First of all, for anyone who doesn't know you, Eric is a graphic designer turned dentist, which I think is super cool. It's a similar story to Brian Chesky of Airbnb, where you have this design love, this desire to turn design into business, and really bring that into business. So tell us a little bit about kind of that transition and why you got into dental.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with my desire to create beautiful things. I mean, I was a graphic design major at Drexel University, and I never was out working as a designer, but a lot of the stuff that I've learned, the core classes are sculpture, figure drawing, painting, and just using materials to create something very similar to dentistry. I mean, my first mentor, his name's Dr. Matarazzo, he would tell me about materials, control your materials. And I think a lot of that helped translate from design to dentistry. And then, designing the business side of it was another thing where, you take in, I guess, form and function. Things have to look good, but you also have to be functional and profitable. And there's a lot to it. The core of design really helped me clinically and also in business as well.
Yeah, I find that there's been a lot of guests that we've had that were wanted to be architects, wanted to be chefs. I mean, before I went to dental school, I wanted to be a fashion designer for a little bit, and I wanted to be a chef. I took it as far as I even went to culinary school the year before dental school, just to have a year off and to have that option because I
Wonderful.
loved it so much. And I do think, something that I was having brunch with one of our dentist friends on Sunday, and he's like got the most incredible, beautiful practice here in Austin, Texas. And like we were talking about how it's so correlated, and I want to tie it into EOS, this operating system that for any listener who's been listening for a long time, they've heard so many of our guests talking about this. And I kind of feel like it's like the dirty secret. It's like the dirty secret of like having like great mental health, because EOS breaks everything up into basically this concept of being a visionary versus an integrator. So, Doc, you have run EOS for your 6 practices with your wife, which I can relate to. I obviously run my business with my fiance, and I know the challenges around that. Tell us a little bit about that. And can you just, for anyone who doesn't know what EOS is, talk to us about EOS in the first place?
EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and it's on a book by Gino Wickman called Traction. I've read so many books over the years in so many different parts of my career, and this book, I wish I read it 10 years ago. Not only reading it, Ingrid, you also have to, use the tools that are in it, and it's a toolbox. And when When I first was given this book, I read it and I'm like, this is exactly what we need. Me and my leadership team were having 6-hour meetings on a Friday. We were getting the notes of the meeting on the next Tuesday. And by the time we would get through them, half of the issues were already solved, or they just weren't even an issue anymore. What EOS does is it gives you a clear, I think it's 7 or 8 steps, parts of every business, and you focus on each one over time. It takes time to integrate it. We hired an implementer from EOS professional to integrate EOS into our company. It took about 2 years. And my wife, Jen, she was our integrator. Her and I have a natural visionary integrator relationship, even at home. Like, I'm go, 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 and she's no, no, no. And that's a healthy balance. I mean, if everything I ever wanted to do, we did, we would probably be dead broke and divorced by now. So you have to kind of balance each other out. And when we read the book Rocket Fuel, Ingrid, it was like, oh my God, this is perfect. So this was during COVID where we started implementing it, and it really changed the trajectory of Lakeview Dental Care and got us. We struggled a lot with profit at that time, and by implementing EOS and following it pretty hardcore, we were able to go from just about profitable to an excellent exit with the Smilist within 5 years. Or 4 years. It was spectacular.
We're seeing that the national average of overhead is like 61.5%. I think I saw that yesterday. But that's like, you must live somewhere like in the middle of nowhere is kind of my thoughts, because when I talk to my friends, I'm seeing like 80 to 90% overhead in major cities. So I'd love to hear, when you say you were barely profitable, just for our listeners, a lot of times what people say when they hear this podcast is like, oh my God, I feel so seen. Will you talk to us about what that means? Because you're in New Jersey.
We're in New Jersey, and profit. When I say profitable, I mean, we have our top line revenue, and then we pay all of our expenses, including, it was my salary, my partner's salary, all the salaries. And then the profitability at the end was, 3 to 5% before we started implementing traction and really getting a handle on our business. And, we thought we were doing great. We were growing. We went from 1 practice to 3 to 5 to 6. Top line was growing, but expenses were growing, and it was getting out of control. And we were at a point where I said to my partner, I said, John, we're subsidizing this practice. And it wasn't like we were making $500,000 each at our salaries. We were just, maybe it was 100, 120. It wasn't anything crazy, but the profit went from, 3 to 5%. I think when we finally exited, we were around 18 or 19%, which was spectacular. It was a journey. It was tricky getting through COVID and all that other stuff, but traction, EOS, Ingrid was a huge part of it.
I mean, listen, something that now that I have, I stopped practicing 6 years ago, and I've been running a dental tech company since 2019. And one of the biggest things that I've realized, and like it makes me love dentists even more, is the fact that people are graduating with no student debt. They're not running a practice. They don't have overhead, and they're making way more without having to go into an office, without having to have gone to dental school. They're making like $200,000 to $400,000 if you're like a senior designer or a senior engineer, without having to do everything that we do. And they just expect that, right? But dentists have to do so much more, deal with so much, and then you're like struggling to barely make a profit.
You know that sinking feeling when the same patient keeps coming back for crown after crown? Yeah, we've all been there. Here's the thing. What if we could actually prevent all that mess with a simple bite correction? That's where we come in at TwoFront. We handle the whole Invisalign process for you. I'm talking zero ClinChecks, zero lab bills, barely any chair time. Oh, and we take on the liability too. Your patient gets a healthy bite that'll save them thousands down the road. You get to be the hero who prevented years of dental drama. It's honestly a no-brainer. Check out TwoFront and start helping your patients dodge a lifetime of dental work today.
I want to dig a little bit into running a business with your wife. So
Okay.
just the backstory, my friend who I was having brunch with on Sunday, he's single, he's in his early 40s, and he's like doesn't have time to date. He's like, I just met this like wonderful designer. Like he's really into her, but he's like, I see her once a month because we're so busy. I just opened up a practice. So something that I realized is that running, first of all, people are everything. Like there's no business without people. Like it's all about who you surround yourself with. And for me, like including my fiance, who like I'm so grateful joined my business. but it's also really challenging to run a business with your partner. So I'd love to hear a little bit from you because Izzy and I have a visionary relationship, which is
Oh,
very interesting. You guys have a visionary integrator, which is traditional business. So can you just help our listeners understand? So what does it mean to be a visionary versus an integrator? And how does that how do you bring that into work and how does it work?
so the visionary is the person who is looking ahead. I'm 3, 6, 7 months, 7 years ahead, and here's what I want to do. And I come up with 20 or 30 ideas a week. Let's do this. Let's add this. Let's try that. And then it funnels in through an integrator who, like I said earlier, I was go, go, go. And the integrator's no, no, no. And it gets siphoned through the integrator. And they say, well, this will work here. This could work here. We don't have the resources for that. So it kind of keeps everybody in check. Personally, with my wife and I, we had what was called a designed alliance. And our implementer, we sat down early on and he said, this is either going to wreck your marriage or you're going to have an incredible business. So we sat down and designed an alliance together. And it was, I use it a lot. I use that tool a lot with partnerships and other businesses I'm in where, okay, here's what we both agree to. We're designing this alliance with each other. And my wife she's very different than me. I mean, she's a very genuine person. Not that I'm not, but she says no, it's no. Like she knows I'm a dreamer. She knows I want to go and see what's out there and try different things, but she also knows how to reel it in and make it successful. So it's a powerful balance. And when you have it working, it could be really exceptional. The Design Alliance, Ingrid, we would have our own L-Pen meeting, my wife and I. We still have one now for our family. We do it for our family now. And my wife she actually is an EOS integrator or implementer. I can't believe I keep getting these confused. So after she left Lakeview Dental Care, we have a franchise and she's running with that. So, and she does a great job with the Designed Alliance. We would review it like once a week. We had a signal. We still use it. Like if we talk business too much at home, you pull your ear. Like, yo, that's it.
So
it's
necessary.
husband and wife time. All right. And
So for anyone who has never heard of EOS before and hasn't listened to any of our episodes, which again, like 80%, I would say, of our guests have a run on EOS. So it's just this like dirty secret that like run, don't walk to buying this book on Amazon immediately, listening to it on audio. And like Eric said, it's not just about listening to it. It's about actually doing it. And it's actually extremely difficult to do it. But if you do it, it'll change your life and change our life at Two Front. I feel like I honestly feel like I'm like a walking billboard for like Gino Wickman. Like it is a life-changing thing. But the reason that I say this is because I think that most dentists are visionaries. I really do. Like we are artists. And if you don't know what a visionary is, and if you've never heard of this before, you can go online to this book. Just Google Gino Wickman, like EOS integrator versus visionary. Take the test, see what you are, because whatever you are, if you are an integrator or a visionary, it's going to tell you who your counterpart is and what you need. Because I'm sure a couple of you are listening to Eric being like, huh, I don't want to deal with that integrator. That integrator will make your dream come true. Right, Eric?
100%. 100%.
And I think that, a lot of dentists, like, because we're visionaries, we are ideas people. And I think society will, like, shut that down a lot of times. Like, oh, yeah, another idea, another idea. But it's kind of like Apple with, like, Steve Jobs and, like, Wozniak. If you have your Wozniak, you can bring your ideas to reality. And so the fact that your integrator is your wife is just, it's a whole other thing. Like, that is, like, so incredible. And the fact that you have level 10 meetings at home is amazing. Will you talk to us a little bit about what that actually means?
Well, a level 10 meeting for people that don't know it's probably one of the most powerful tools in traction. I mean, it's a set agenda. It has set time for everything, and it's a time saver, believe it or not, in business where you're having these long meetings. But at home, we meet once a week and we have the same agenda. We do a segue. How's everything going? Something good with work, something good at home. Headlines, anything going on with the kids, anything going on anywhere else. To-dos, checklists, and the biggest part of the L10 agenda is something called the IDS session, which stands for Identify, Discuss, and Solve. And there's too much to go through right now with how that all works, but that's the core of the whole entire agenda. And you leave these meetings, things solve, things that people are going to do, and most importantly, you're held accountable by your team. Like you leave a meeting and say, I got 5 to-dos and we're going to be back here in a week. And if you don't have them done, how many times you're going to sit in front of the people, your wife, your business associates, your team, and say, I didn't do it. I mean, and it's not a disciplinary thing, Ingrid, as you know. It's okay. What can I do to help you? What resources do you need to get these things done? Because you're in this seat that is accountable to get these things done. And I feel like I'm going off on a tangent. Sorry. I
No,
won't.
no, no. Oh my God, that's so funny. You're using it an EOS term for our listeners. Tangent is like an EOS term where like if you feel like you're going off on a tangent, the other person's supposed to call you out, which is so funny because we do that at work all the time. Eric, I'm really happy that you brought up this concept of accountability because you're right. I think typically especially visionaries, when we think about accountability, it almost feels like punishment. But I think accountability is like the most beautiful thing ever. Like I myself am accountable to my investors. I have to send an investor update every month. If I didn't send that investor update, I would be a less good CEO, is what I've realized. Because I know that in 15 days, everyone's going to get an update on our numbers, what we've accomplished, what our struggles are. And if we're not making massive moves, then I'm going to feel like ashamed that we haven't done that for our investors. And so, what you're saying right now is being accountable to your people, which is like the coolest thing ever if you actually flip it from being like a negative thing to a positive thing, right?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, as the CEO, as the visionary, as the president, yeah, you're ultimately accountable for everything and everyone. But the tools that EOS has, it helps you let go of the vine, as they say. Elevate, delegate to elevate. I mean, I'm using all the terms in it, but it's great stuff, and it does help ultimately, as you know, get everybody rowing in the same direction, which creates a better work-life balance, so to speak, a better life, a better business, a better family, a better anything.
Better everything. So, Eric, you obviously recently transitioned to partnering with the Smilist. So much of what we talk about in this podcast, and like I'm on a mission to help our dentists figure out, is like, what is the path towards financial success, towards time success, towards happiness? Like I keep talking about my friend who I got brunch with on Sunday because like he is trapped with zero time success. So I would just love to hear about your thoughts and your transition from running a 6 office group in New Jersey on EOS, which is great, to now being a part of the Smilist.
Well, I think the transition was a thought out process. There was a time, it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where my partner and I were kind of headed in different directions. Things were just getting a little unclear. My wife wanted to leave the practice, wanted to leave Lakeview Dental Care, and without her, without a number two, it was going to be very, very hard. We were hitting ceilings. We had associates leaving. We were unable to provide certain resources. So we decided, my partner and I sat down with our implementer, Hank, and had a discussion with him. He coordinated. He sat and it was a third party there. So we decided to sell. We hired a company to take us to market. It was called Polaris Health Partners back in 2023. And it was about a year-long process where they came in, cleaned up a few things. And normally it doesn't take that long, Ingrid. A week or two after we hired them, truck smashed into one of our practices and threw off the whole entire plan. But I'm going off on a tangent. So back to your original question was, how does it all work? I guess there's a lot of different ways to do it, but my only advice would be, think it through. It's not an overnight thing, and maybe you want to transition, sell, whatever you want to call it, earlier than you think, earlier than when you have to. Lakeview was on a great trajectory in a lot of ways. Profit was going up, our top line was going up, new patients. So, the right group, the right DSO, the right partner. I don't want to use any bad words with your audience, but the right group at the right time can be very rewarding. And it's been about 9-10 months since the transaction. And, it's been working out great. I mean, these companies have things and resources that, we couldn't provide even with 6 offices. We were hitting the ceiling, so to speak.
And by the way, the fact that a truck ran into one of your practices, that's absolutely crazy. Talk
I know.
about like, that's just like a life. That's like God being like, yep, deal with this.
Deal with this.
I'd love to go into the details of this. Like, what was your life like before when you were running in the US and owning these 6 practices? And you mentioned you had your salary. 120, $1,000, you're going from 3 to 5% profit all the way up to 19% profit because you were implementing this system EOS to now you are part of a bigger organization. Talk to us about like financially, time, happiness. Like I want to hear what your life is like.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows, I'll be honest with you. I mean, there's a lot as a business owner that you were a business owner, now you're not, and it's a little, it's not challenging, but, the deal, I can't get into too much of the details, but we had seven different groups that were interested in our practice, and I owe all that to our brokers. They took it out there, they set it up the right way, and we had a great asset, and the Smilist, the reason why Jonathan, my partner, and I decided to go with them was the alignment of our culture and our core values, and kind of we sat with them a couple times, and John and I would look at each other and say, this is exactly where we want to be in 10 or 20 or 30 years if it would take that long. We just didn't have the resources to do it. So, the happiness level, I mean, I'm as happy as I want to be. I mean, I could be happy drilling teeth. I could be happy buying real estate or, doing just about anything. So that's a personal inside job, so to speak, Ingrid, in my opinion. I'm very happy with the process. I was very happy with, the EBITDA multiples and everything else, all that economic information. It was very, very fair, maybe above fair. And again, I'm not sure what I'm allowed to share, but so far so good. And it's a 5-year phase out, so to speak. So I have an employee contract with the Smilist, as a dentist, as some of their business developments, looking for other practices to try to keep growing their brand and their footprint in our area. But so far so good. I mean, there was no surprises. If anything, Ingrid, it actually enhanced our team members' experience with our practices. It actually enhanced the patient experience. A lot of the operational day-to-day stuff is the patients aren't seeing anything different. Maybe a different name on the invoice, or, I mean, they didn't really. Nothing has been changed, from a patient perspective. We did have to convert software, which anyone who's ever done that knows how much of a headache that is. But for me personally, I couldn't be happier. It's been great. I mean, we'll see how the next 3 to 5 years go. But there's an equity earnout buyout situation that could be. I mean, that could be life changing. I mean, they were very, very generous, and I'm super appreciative. But that's the proverbial second bite of the apple, which I don't see any reason why that wouldn't happen. I mean, the ownership, the CEO, the private equity company behind the Smilist, very, very accessible. I can call any of the guys and talk to them anytime I want any questions. It's been great. So far, so good. I mean, maybe in 3 or 5 years, we'll have another conversation and see how it all plays out. But one of our doctors, when we had to let all our docs know, we had like 22 doctors, and it was stressful to go through all that. It was very stressful. Who's going to think this and think that? And the one doctor said, "Well, you're going to have a mass exodus. Everyone's going to leave." We lost one doctor in the whole process, and I don't think we've lost a team member in the last 10 years, or the last 10 months. Excuse me. They've enhanced the compensation packages. The 401ks so much better than we could ever do. And on the other side of it, from the lab negotiating, we thought we were getting a great deal with 6 offices. When you have 120 offices, it's even better. And the fee negotiating. I mean, they're a well run business. I have a lot of respect for the ownership, the CEO. I sat down with him the other day. We just came and sat down, had a regular conversation, just like we're having. I mean, Axel's name is super guy. So couldn't be happier so far. We'll see.
And what you're talking about with resources, like having more access to resources, I think that's something that was also, now that I'm running Two Front, it was so shocking to me to realize like you have power when you have the ability to do good for people when you have more resources. So we now have like, I think like a little bit over 100 active practices right now. We define active as like one of our dentists basically scans at least one patient a week to be evaluated by one of the orthodontists that we partner them with. And because we have so many practices, we have so many good discounts within Invisalign. We have so many perks, like on the iTero side, on the sleeve side, and of course, like just making Invisalign 10 times more profitable. And like, I had no idea when I started this business that like, that is something that I could give people. And like, I think it's just important. I would love to share my experience, which is that like when you team up, like business is about people. Like we think when we're in dentistry, it's my own two hands and like what I'm going to do with my own two hands. But if you really want to make an impact, like you have to work with people. And I just think that the ability to work with people and develop those people skills and build relationships and get out of the chair is so important so that you can make an impact. And it sounds like you've recognized that and you've realized that literally over the past 5 years.
Oh, absolutely, and I love what you're doing, by the way. I love Two Front. I mean, I know we talked a couple months ago. I mean, it's a no-brainer, I think. I mean, because Invisalign for us over the years was always like a clunky kind of process in our practices, and the way you have it streamlined and the way your Two Front business runs, I mean, I if I could still make the decision, I would do it in 2 seconds, but again, um, you're absolutely right. As dentists, we're very, very insular, I think, clinically, like, we're here, we have to make sure everything's per but in the real world, or not in the real world, I mean, dentistry is the real world, but in the business world, and it's a team effort, and partnering and surrounding yourself with the right people, the right companies, it's fantastic.
So what you're doing, Eric, now is you have a really big focus on culture, which obviously what does that mean? I think when I heard the word culture like 7 years ago for the first time, I was like, this is fluffy BS. I had no time for any of this. Like, talk to me, but now, post like 2025 CEO Ingrid is like, oh, culture is everything. Culture and people is everything. So for people that are wanting to understand more about like people and culture, talk to me about what this means to you and what your day-to-day is like now when it comes to building culture.
Culture, to me, it's the heartbeat of an organization. I mean, it's the lifeblood. It's so, so important, and for so many years, I didn't even know what the heck it was. I don't even I look back and I don't even know who that guy was when I think about, like, my early years, and there was a specific moment. It was this time of year reminds me of it because it was the 4th of July, might have been 15 years ago. It was just me and my practice. I had 2 hygienists, very small. At lunch, my manager walks in and is crying and hands me a stack of papers and quits. And I was so emotionally unintelligent that I had no idea what was going on with her and the dynamics of the group. And my family was going to the shore for the 4th of July. I stay home. My wife and my kids went, and I just was like, what am I going to do? So called a bunch of people. Long story short, I meet this woman, Andrea. She becomes our office manager. And she told me 2 things that stick with me till today about culture. And I didn't even realize this is what it was, but she said, Dr. Forte, you're a nice guy, you do nice work, but this is not about you. You want to build a company, you want to build a practice. It's not about you. It's about everyone around you. And that hit like a ton of bricks. And then Andrea said, she was our manager for quite a few years. She's a great, great woman. She said one other thing. She said, when people work for you and people work at Lakeview Dental Care, you want them to go home and not be stressed out and burnt out. And when they're done their time with Lakeview Dental, she said, you want them to look back and say, that was a great experience. I had great friends. We made people's lives better. We created a beautiful smile. So, and that's when I think for me, 15 years ago, culture started becoming more forefront. When you start out as a dentist, Ingrid, you know this, it's all about the margin, the material. And then little by little, dentistry is less and less of your life. So to kind of tie into culture, you have a culture in your business, whether you intentionally design it or not. And they're not all great. So we took with EOS, designing the culture, starting with the core values, starting with the right people in the right seats. The core values, I think for me personally, was a big aha moment. It's not just a word on the wall. It's not, success or communication or respect. Like it is that. But more importantly, what I've learned over the years, Ingrid, is it's the behaviors of the people in your practices that make your core values. Meaning, okay, respect. What does that mean? Like, let's define that a little bit more. Like, does that mean you show up on time for everything? You're respectful of people's time. You're respectful, just as a normal human being. You're not yelling and hollering. And so there's a lot. So it's managing the behaviors and intentionally putting them out there. And then to keep going into more of EOS, hiring people that live them, firing people that don't, rewarding people that are being exceptional at them. And it becomes part of the thread of your whole entire practice. Every conversation you're having, everything you're doing, it slowly integrates into it. And if people they don't fit the culture, that's okay. There's a million other dental offices. It's okay that someone it doesn't have to work for you, or even your patients too. Like if they're not your ideal patient where they're respecting your time and appreciating your work, then there's a dentist, there's 3 dentists right down the street. You know, I would never want to lose a patient for the first 5 years of my life. I'm like, oh my God, I would lose sleep. Mary's going to leave. Oh my, you know what? It's a little bit of an ego thing, I think, when you first get out. But as you mature and grow, you realize Mary's probably happier with a different dentist, and I'm probably happier, and the staff's probably happier that Mary's not here anymore. So sorry, I went off on a major tangent again.
Not at all. And, I'm so happy to be talking about this. Like for all of our dentist listeners, I think a way that I've kind of internalized this is that there's no bad people. There's no bad people. They just have different behaviors. And that's not bad. You can't compare a rose to a sunflower. And if those behaviors are not something, to your point, behaviors is culture. So if those behaviors aren't something for your culture, doesn't make them bad. You just need to find the people and filter them out that fuel your culture. Because without those values, what do you have?
That's fantastic. I mean, that's culture right there in one sentence versus my 14 paragraphs. But yeah, it is.
No, I love your 14 paragraphs.
Not bad people, just bad behaviors.
Yeah.
But to your point, I mean, as a leadership team, you have to set the bar. You have to set okay, here's we're designed. This is what Two Front's about, or this is what the Happy Dentist is about. And live it. And you have to lead by example and live it every day. So, I mean, but now with the Smilist, their core values and their behaviors are even extended further, where they have it broken up into the provider's behavior that is expected, the support staff, and then management. And yeah, we at our huddles in the office that I'm in on Mondays, I run the huddle Monday mornings, and we pick a core value, and try to just keep, you have to constantly live it, work it, be it, do it.
Live it, do it. It's kind of like, it's almost, I like that you're saying that you got to actually like live your core values. It's almost like a parent trying to tell their kids to read who doesn't read. Like you have to lead by example.
True,
And you
true.
can't tell people to do something that you're not doing yourself. It's just not genuine. So, I think what I love about this conversation is that like dentistry is a very humbling experience when you realize it's less about your hand skills and more about you and your people skills and your ability to shape the people around you and influence the people around you. And you've lived that through 6 practices with your wife, now being part of the Smilist. And honestly, I'd love to interview you again in like the next 2 to 3 years and see how things are going, because we're just like on a truth mission here. We're like just trying to figure out what is the truth. And every dentist might have their own truth, right? For like, what is their formula for happiness? But I think the fact that you're now experiencing so many different phases of dentistry is super, super cool. So Eric, thank you for coming on the show, sharing your story. Where can people find you?
My email, the website, it's thesmilist.com. The email is eric.forte@thesmilist.com. And on LinkedIn, you know better than I do. I don't know my handle or whatever it's called, but I'm sure I'll get it over to you.
They can just look up your name, Eric Forte, Smilist. Amazing. Well, thanks again for joining.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great day.